everyone. Welcome to the Legacy Cafe podcast with your host, Rob Lucy, author of the book, How Will You Be Remembered? The definitive guide to creating and sharing your life story. So grab yourself a cup of coffee and find yourself a seat in the Legacy Cafe. Here's Rob.
Thanks, Kathy. Hi, everyone. I'm Rob Lucy, and welcome to the Legacy Cafe. Today, we're going to talk about, you guessed it, stories and storytelling, and hundreds and thousands of them. In my career, I was basically a storyteller in a variety of settings, in journalism, producing corporates and government work in museums around the world. It was all about gathering the story and figuring out how to tell it and then telling it. Well, a friend of mine, a broadcasting friend of mine, sat in a mall one day and he said, "Tell your story here." And it was in the early, after 2001, somewhere around there. And we kind of laughed and said, we should do this. We should put up a tent and have people come in and tell their story. We didn't do it. Well, somebody did. In 2003, StoryCorps was formed. And since then, over about 250,000 people plus have recorded interviews and stories about their lives. They're passing their experiences and their wisdom on to the next generation and the next and the next, and maybe hundreds of years from now. StoryCorps says their mission, and this is important, is to preserve and share humanity's stories in order to build connections. That's important for my book. Build connections between people and create a more just and compassionate world. Yep, stories can do it. So I talked to StoryCorps back when I was doing research for my book, and I figured it's time to check them out, see what they've done in the last 14, 15 years. And to do that, please welcome Emily Janssen. How are you, Emily?
Hi, Rob. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Delightful to have you. You're an associate director there, so you kind of have a handle on what StoryCorps does. So I'm going to fly the helicopter up a whole bunch.
Okay.
Why are we bothering? Why collect America's stories?
Oh, well, our stories are kind of what makes us who we are, and our connection to our family and our loved ones, and also to the rest of the world. So you just were mentioning our mission about building a more just and compassionate world. And I think by telling our stories and listening to each other, that's when we hear what we have in common, and what sort of unites us instead of the little things that divide us.
I'll get you to walk out of an interview in a little bit, and I want to talk about how it works. Can you just give us the brief history? What's happened since 2003 right up to now?
Yeah, so in 2003, we started with just that simple idea of two people sitting down and having a conversation about their lives and recording it and archiving it at the Library of Congress. And so at first we thought, this is just what an experiment that we're doing, and it really struck a chord. So back in 2003, we just had one space to do that in Grand Central Terminal in New York City. Since then, we have an Airstream trailer that travels around the country and goes to 10 cities every year. Right now we have a space in Atlanta, a space in Chicago, and throughout the years we've also been in other cities, San Francisco, Nashville, Milwaukee. And then we continue to just build partnerships as we do this work so that we can be in many cities working with many different people so that we can really make sure that everyone has the chance to record their stories for their own personal history and to preserve that for future generations.
So the core, if I can say, the core of StoryCorps is still just to get personal stories so people have the experience of telling them and realizing, they do have a bunch of stories to tell.
Yeah, it has not changed from the beginning. This very simple idea of just sitting across from someone that you care about or you're curious about, and recording that conversation. And then together, when we do that and we generously share that sort of we're so grateful in the StoryCorps archive, and we share that with the Library of Congress to preserve, that becomes this beautiful mosaic of who we are at this point in time as we live our history. And so we're sort of giving that back to our own families and to future generations to say, in our own words, who we are and what's important to us.
Let's do the experience. So let's say I've got somebody important to me, weird old Uncle Harold. I've got weird old
Sounds
Uncle.
Good.
He's still a heck of a talker. He's 89 or he's 72. It really doesn't matter. Well, we got two people. So take me in the experience now. I walk up with weird old Uncle Harold. What happens to us?
Yeah, so in our recording booths, one of the important parts is that there's a StoryCorps facilitator who is a StoryCorps staff person who's trained, who will be there through the whole process, take care of the technical aspects, and start the archival process for you. So a StoryCorps facilitator greets you and kind of gets you oriented and set up. There's some paperwork that you fill out that helps us again with the archival process if you decide that you'd like to share your story in that way. And then you just walk into our soundproof space, which is really comfortable, and you sit across the table from your interview partner. So I like to think of it sort of like a little diner, or you're sitting down at the kitchen table and sitting across from the person you're going to have a conversation with.
And there's a microphone in front of both of you, so you can do this.
Exactly. And then your StoryCorps facilitator is off to the side, so they're there to sort of make sure that everything is great for you, but mostly is just there as a witness. And then our traditional signature interviews that are facilitated in our story booths, as we call the recording booths, are 40 minutes of uninterrupted recording time. And so that's a conversation between you and the person that you're with. And sometimes it comes out a little bit more like an interview where one person is asking most of the questions. And other times the conversation just flows really naturally back and forth. You might remember things together, ask each other questions. And then when you're finished, you decide if you want to share it with us in our archive, and that's it. You've done it.
You have people walking in who may not have they may be kind of frightened to have an interview, a conversation. You can give them a list of questions, I guess, and you could help them out with some starters.
Yeah, we have some great questions and available on our website as well, on our question list, that are just lists to get you started. So certainly when you have a 40-minute conversation, you are not going to talk about your entire life. Our lives are so much bigger than that. But you can think about what you'd like to get out of this particular conversation. And we have great questions to just get you started. And some of those big ones are kind of big questions about life that we want to ask the people that we love while we have the chance. What are you most proud of? How do you want to be remembered? Things like that.
You would probably agree to this. There's one question that I say in my presentations that's the only question you need, and every journalist uses it, and you can boil it down to this question and do a fascinating conversation with people. And the question is, tell me about.
Yes.
Emily, tell me about your elementary school. Emily, tell me about your first bike. Emily, tell me about your first love. Emily,
Yeah.
And you can go on and on and on. It works. Anyways, I'm just curious. Now they've had that experience, then they walk out. Have you had experience in seeing them walk out, and what's happening to them now?
Yeah.
They look and feel different?
Yeah, I would say we talk about this a lot as StoryCorps facilitators, the people who are there witnessing this all the time. Sometimes, as you said, some people can be very nervous when they walk in. And some people, often it's a pair of people, one of them is very excited, sort of your loquacious person who has invited the other one in and wants to hear about them. And the other person might be very nervous. And you've sat down and you've had this 40 minutes without your cell phone on, without a distraction of TV or just everything that goes on in our lives. And you've just sat and really been with the person and really listened and really talked and gotten to talk about your life and what's important to you. And so we notice that after that moment, after that experience, they walk back out of the booth and there is just something noticeably different, something lighter, and relaxed, and you can see the connection between the two people, who often go on and continue their conversation after they leave us. And
the thing they most often say when they leave the place is, "I didn't know that."
Yes.
I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that about you. So there's another conversation.
Even people we've known our whole lives. Yeah.
Yeah. What about that? You've got some categories of stories. So if I came in there and I'm not too sure what I want to do with Weird Old Uncle Harold, you've got categories like military and justice. Can you tell us about the categories and what their role is?
Yeah, so throughout our history, at times we're able to get support to really focus on reaching out to certain groups of people and make sure that they're able to record their stories, and that we're able to share them back to the world. So while we're creating this archive, we also take stories out of the archive and edit them and share them through our relationship with National Public Radio and through our own website, et cetera. So throughout time, we've done this with different areas so that we become better experts at being able to listen to those stories. So we've done that in Military Voices. Our GRIO initiative is to record and archive stories of African Americans.
What's the word GRIO?
GRIO is an African tradition. It's an oral storyteller.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've just done this, and these are all areas that we just incorporate into our work and continue. But while we really focus on these, what we call initiatives, we're working with partners in the community who really know folks and can invite them to participate, so that we know that we're doing that.
Now, I want to talk about the app because technology's changed story gathering and telling. We'll talk about the app in a second, but right now, let me just be clear. Where is this story booth now, and what are there some permanent ones and then one that roams? Is that how it works?
Yep, you've got it. So year-round, you can record in our story booth in Atlanta. That's located at the Atlanta History Center, in Chicago at the Chicago Cultural Center. And then our StoryCorps mobile booth, that's in that shiny Airstream trailer. We are in 10 cities every year. That has been traveling since 2005, nonstop. Right now happens to be in Fort Collins, Colorado, but we'll just keep moving. And in our Military Voices initiative is visiting Colorado Springs right now.
Good. So the roaming one, I could find out where it is by going to storycorps.org.
You've got it. Yep.
Let's talk about the app then. So then I can't get to Atlanta and I can't get to where the silver trailer.
Mm-hmm.
There's an app I can download, and tell me about what its function is.
Yep, it's just it's a free app that you can get from your App Store, Google Play, the Apple App Store, and it's available for your smartphone or tablet. It's free, and it really just allows you to use your device as your recording device, and it will walk you through that StoryCorps process step by step. And when you're finished recording with your interview partner, you can share that into our StoryCorps archive at archive.storycorps.org, so that it can be preserved by the Library of Congress and that other people can hear it as well.
So just a conversation at the kitchen table with your iPhone between the two of you, and bingo, it's up in the archive for everybody in the world to hear.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. How has StoryCorps changed storytelling in America, do you think? What do you guys say? What do you think your legacy is in storytelling?
I think that we really have played an important part in all of us realizing that we have the capacity to do this. We are already experts in being interviewers and storytellers, just by being human and being curious about the people around us. So we don't have to be a trained historian or a trained journalist or anchor person or whatever, any of those things. That all it takes is just taking the time and inviting someone that you want to know more about, inviting someone you want to honor, and asking them the questions that you want to know anyway. And again, taking the time. I think that's what keeps us mostly from doing this. And once you start listening, you realize even the folks who say, I don't really have anything. I don't have anything interesting about my life to say. There's plenty that's important and interesting and that's worthy of sharing. And we start to hear those stories just by listening.
You know, since I wrote the book, and then I've been in this industry, and then the Legacy Cafe, etc. I'm continually hearing about the benefit of stories in uniting people and connecting people, especially families that tell their stories. When Dad gets home from work and they have dinner, he tells a story, or Mom tells one, or little Bobby tells one. Families that are so much more connected together when and put in Grandma and Grandpa and weird old Uncle Harry too. They're so much more connected to one another when they tell stories with no with no cause other than to tell it and watch those connections happen more.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And we ask those questions of our participants. We're constantly trying to find that out, and that's what we learn every time, is that people do feel more connected to the person that they're sitting down with. When they listen to other people's stories, they feel more connected to them. They feel more of an understanding of maybe people that they would have felt disconnected from before, or people that they otherwise would have felt very different from.
Now, let me just cover a couple of technical things. This is just audio, though. It's not video. It's just audio.
Yep, that's correct.
And when I leave the story booth, do I take my interview with me in a DVD or some file of some sort, or do I wait to get it up onto the archive?
We send you, so as you said before, technology really has evolved over the past 15 years. So at the beginning, we used to give these things that you may remember called CDs immediately after your interview. Now we send, after we've processed that audio, we send a link to that so that our participants can download that. So they still it's really important to us that you have that copy of your recording.
And in the chapter called "Oh Jeepers, I Wish I Didn't Say That," let's say I was talking to Weird Old Uncle Harold and I said something about his wife, and when I drove away I thought, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. Can we get it edited out, or what's the status of that?
So if you're coming to one of our story booths, what goes into the archive is the unedited recording of that conversation.
The uninhibited was
Yeah. But certainly it is your choice whether you want to share it in that way. So you can come back to us and say, you know what, I don't want it. I just want this to be for my family. We got a little more personal than we'd like to share with
Sure.
With future generations. We just want that to be for us, and that's okay too. Yeah, it's really up to you. The most important thing is that experience itself, and then that you have it, and then from there, it's a great legacy if you decide to share it, but that's up to you.
Yep. Hey, does this cost me anything? Do I have to fork out a check or cash to do this?
No, StoryCorps is a free service.
Ooh, that's darn good. So you must have some sponsors that are helping you out, because you do have expenses.
Yes, and we always welcome the support from our participants, and everyone who supports us, our major donors, corporations, foundations, etc. But we do all of that for the purpose of offering this, what we think is a really important way to connect with each other and create history, to offer that for free.
Yep, I agree. Hey, Emily, you know what we do sometimes at the end of a Legacy Cafe?
I don't know.
We give our listeners something from people like you. Do you have something we could download to our listeners to kind of get them started in this journey of collecting stories of the family, and noting that it's just as easy as sticking an iPhone between the two of you? Anyways, have you got something that'll fire their brain up?
Yes, we have interview tips to share with you.
Oh, good.
So just some quick ones, and if you walk through that and remind yourself of those, it'll take your regular conversation just to that next level.
So these are a series of questions that any amateur could use and get Weird Old Uncle Harry talking.
Sure. Yep, and it includes, I think you offered a great one earlier, Rob, when you said, oh, tell me about this. And we're always saying, and then what happened? Mm-hmm. Tell me more.
Well, that would be great to have. And to everybody who's listening, you could go to legacycafe.org/StoryCorps. That's STORY Corps, CORPS. Emily's part of the core of StoryCorps. So legacycafe.org/StoryCorps. And there you'll be waiting. They're waiting for you. Will be a download of these questions that Emily's going to give us. That was fabulous. Thank you. I'm delighted. The idea we had 2 decades ago, that somebody took it on. I loved the idea of sitting in a public place and having people come up and watching them walk away with just stunned at how much fun that was, and how it was so neat to talk to you, or the person with them. Yeah, it's such a privilege to be able to witness that. Yes. Is there anything else you'd want to tell our group here about StoryCorps? Something maybe we haven't run across? No, I just hope everyone will, if you'd like to share your story and have these conversations and preserve them for history,
wherever you are, you can download the app and share your story. And also you can listen to selections from our archive that we've shared back with our StoryCorps community at StoryCorps.org. There's lots to listen to.
How many stories do you have now?
In the StoryCorps archive, in our signature collection, that's what people have recorded in our story booths, we're at over 70,000. And then if you include all of these stories that people have recorded on their own and shared in our archive, that's another 250,000 or more in addition to that. So it is the largest collection of human voices gathered in one place.
From Emily Janssen is from StoryCorps. And by the way, what Emily's going to give us can be found at, just to remind you again, legacycafe.org/StoryCorps, StoryCorps. And these questions will maybe be the catalyst for you to go find your own weird old Uncle Harold and have a conversation you never thought you would, learning some things about friends and family that you never thought you would. Emily, thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Hey, where are you? Because I think I hear some traffic. It kind of sounds busy.
Yeah, I'm here in good old Brooklyn, New York. So with all the sirens and the cars.
The streets of New York. Thank you, Emily Janssen from StoryCorps. I'm Rob Lucy. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again on the Legacy Cafe.
Thanks for listening to the Legacy Cafe podcast. We have lots of great conversations coming your way. And by the way, if you want us to send you reminders that a new podcast is ready for you, go to legacycafe.org to subscribe. That's legacycafe.org. Have a great day, and remember, the coffee and conversations are always hot at the Legacy Cafe.